Have you ever noticed that as we grow older, the more we share with our family, the more complicated things can become? As women, especially in our later years, we've learned a few hard truths along the way. One of the biggest lessons is this: not everything needs to be said out loud. I used to believe that full honesty was the key to staying close with my loved ones, but over time, I've realized that sometimes silence is the greatest form of wisdom. It's not about hiding things. It's about choosing peace over drama, privacy over pressure. After 65, we've earned the right to protect our energy, and certain parts of our lives deserve to stay sacred. Today, I want to share with you 5 things I've learned that are best kept to ourselves if we want to maintain strong relationships and avoid unnecessary stress. If you value your independence and emotional freedom, especially in these later years, then this message is for you. Stick with me, and if any of this resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe and join our growing community of wise, kind-hearted women. Let's get started. 1. Why you should keep your financial situation private. As we get older, our approach to money often changes. We've worked hard our whole lives to build a financial foundation, and after 65, many of us start thinking about how to pass on our wealth or ensure our future is secure. Naturally, we want our children and family to feel at ease, to know that we're prepared. It can seem like the right thing to do, to lay everything out on the table, our savings, our assets, our investments, so there are no surprises down the road. But I've learned something important over the years. Not everything needs to be shared, especially when it comes to finances. The more you reveal, the more you open the door to unnecessary questions, opinions, and sometimes even pressure. It's not about hiding anything. It's about protecting your peace. Let me tell you a story. I once knew a woman named Joyce. She was 78, graceful, and wise, having spent decades working hard and saving every penny she could. She had 3 grown children, and one day, she thought she was doing the right thing by sharing her financial plans with them. She wanted them to know everything was in order, to reassure them about her future. But instead of feeling comforted, her children began to question everything. "Are you sure you need such a big house?" they asked. "Have you thought about gifting money now, rather than later?" Even her daughter showed up with a financial advisor, uninvited, to review her plans. What started as an innocent act of transparency quickly turned into a flood of unwanted advice, judgment, and interference. Joyce went from feeling independent and in control of her life to feeling watched, as if her decisions were no longer her own. The moment you share too much, especially without setting clear boundaries, you risk losing the very independence you've worked so hard to maintain. Now, I know this might seem surprising, but here's the truth. You don't owe anyone a full account of your financial life. You've earned the right to protect that part of your world. The more open you are about every detail, the more vulnerable you become to those who may unintentionally overstep, or, in some cases, take advantage of your generosity. The last thing you need in your later years is to feel like you're being judged for every purchase or financial decision you make. I've seen it happen more times than I can count. Suddenly, distant relatives start showing up, asking about your will or investments. People who never called before now have all sorts of questions about your money. It's not always malicious, but it sure can feel unsettling. And it's not just about family members trying to help you manage your finances. It's about the shift in how they view you once they know too much. When people start seeing your financial situation, they can stop seeing you, the person, the individual, and start seeing your wealth instead. Think about it. You don't need to explain your decision to buy a new couch, take a vacation, or even update your hearing aids. These are your choices, and you've earned the right to make them without justification. It's about living on your own terms, without the weight of others' expectations. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't plan ahead. In fact, having your estate in order, making sure you have a trusted power of attorney, and creating a clear will is not only smart, it's essential. But those details should be shared only with those you trust completely when the time is right. Don't feel obligated to explain every decision you make in the meantime. Your life, your finances, and your peace of mind are yours to protect. The bottom line here is simple. Privacy is not secrecy. It's protection. You've worked hard for everything you have, and you deserve to keep some parts of your life sacred. You don't have to justify your choices to anyone, no matter how much they love you or care for you. Your independence is something you've earned, and it's something you should guard fiercely. So if you've ever felt like someone is watching your wallet more than they're watching out for your heart, that's a red flag. If you start second-guessing every purchase because you're worried about what others will think, it's time to pause. You don't owe anyone a full financial report. What you owe yourself is peace of mind. You've earned the right to live your golden years with freedom, without worrying about other people's opinions on how you spend your money. And remember, it's okay to keep certain things to yourself. Protect your energy, protect your peace, and keep your financial boundaries strong. After all, you've worked hard for this independence, and it's yours to keep. 2. Health concerns. When it's best to keep quiet. As we age, our bodies naturally change. We experience new aches, new pains, and sometimes we just don't feel as energetic as we used to. It's completely normal to have these moments, little joint pains, trouble sleeping, or maybe you just feel tired after a long day. As a woman, especially in our later years, we tend to want to share these feelings with our children or grandchildren. After all, they care about us, and we want to stay connected with them. But here's where it gets tricky. Sharing every little health concern might not always be the best choice. I've seen it happen, and I've even experienced it myself. When we start mentioning every minor ache or discomfort, sometimes it leads to overreactions. We start to feel like we're not seen for who we are, but for the issues that are creeping up with age. Let me tell you about a friend of mine, Tom. He's 74, still active, and full of life. One day he mentioned having sore shoulders after doing some gardening. Nothing serious, just a little stiffness. But before he knew it, his daughter was booking him an appointment with the doctor. Then, she was calling him every day, checking in on him, and even suggesting that he hire someone to help around the house. Tom wasn't angry, but he couldn't help feeling like his family was suddenly treating him as if he were fragile. It was all out of love, but it left him feeling like he had lost control over his own life. This is something we all need to be mindful of. When we share too much about our health, especially small, manageable issues, it can unintentionally change how people see us. Suddenly, people might start treating us like we need more help than we really do, or they might begin to exclude us from activities, thinking we're too fragile. It might even affect how they make decisions for us in the future. Now, I'm not saying you should keep quiet about serious health concerns. If something affects your daily life, or if you need help, absolutely share it. But for those little everyday aches and pains, it's okay to keep those to yourself. You don't have to worry your loved ones over every minor health issue. It's not about denying what's going on in your body. It's about respecting your autonomy and choosing when to share and when to handle things on your own terms. You've lived in this body for a long time, and you know what's serious and what's just part of the aging process. Think about it this way. When you share less, you're protecting your dignity. You're saying, I can handle this. You're choosing not to let others treat you like you're losing control when you know you're still in charge of your own life. And when you choose to keep some health matters private, you're preserving the feeling of independence that's so important as we grow older. In the end, what you share about your health is your decision, and it should be guided by what feels right for you. You don't owe anyone an explanation for every little ache or pain. What you do owe yourself is the peace of mind that comes from knowing you can take care of yourself on your own terms. 3. Family conflicts. Why silence can be the best solution. By the time we reach our later years, we've seen it all. Family arguments, disagreements over inheritance, sibling squabbles, or the never-ending debates about parenting styles. We've been through the emotional highs and lows that come with family dynamics, and somewhere along the way, we learn a powerful truth. Sometimes staying silent is the wisest choice. There was a woman in my book club named Elaine, and she was a perfect example of this. Elaine was always so gentle, thoughtful, and well-intentioned, especially when it came to her children and grandchildren. One day, she casually suggested to her daughter that her grandson should start picking up his toys after playing. It seemed like a simple, harmless piece of advice. But it wasn't taken that way. Before long, her daughter stopped calling her, became distant, and didn't invite her over anymore. It wasn't the advice that caused the distance, but how it was perceived. What Elaine meant as helpful was taken as criticism. This story stuck with me because it's something I've seen countless times. When you try to intervene or mediate family conflicts, even with the best intentions, it can often backfire. You may think you're helping, but sometimes your words get twisted, or they don't land the way you meant them to. Instead of resolving the issue, you find yourself in the middle of a situation you never wanted to be a part of, and your relationships with family members can suffer as a result. It's so easy to feel like you need to step in when things go wrong, especially if you're someone who's always been the peacemaker in the family. But over the years, I've learned that you don't always have to speak up. Sometimes silence is a form of strength. You don't need to take sides or offer solutions to every problem. By not getting involved, you're actually giving your loved ones the space to work things out on their own, without your input complicating matters. There's also the emotional toll of being too involved. When you take a side in a family dispute, even if you don't mean to, people start to see you differently. You become part of the drama, and that can lead to hurt feelings and misunderstandings. A simple comment, even a well-meaning one, can linger far longer than the original conflict itself, leaving scars on relationships that never fully heal. And let's be honest, we've all been in that situation. You try to help two siblings reconcile, but in the end, you're blamed if things don't go as planned. You offer a little advice, and suddenly, you're the one in the hot seat. It's exhausting, and it can take a toll on your emotional well-being. This is why, after years of experience, I've come to believe that the best way to love my family is often by staying out of their conflicts. So, when family disagreements arise, here's my advice. Take a step back. Don't feel like you have to mediate every fight. It's okay to say, "I'm sure you'll figure it out," and leave it at that. Sometimes, by remaining calm and silent, you're actually creating the space for everyone else to find their own way, free from your well-meaning but potentially disruptive intervention. Remember, your peace is too precious to trade for temporary validation in the heat of family drama. You don't need to get involved in every conflict, and you certainly don't need to feel guilty for protecting your emotional well-being. Let your family grow and evolve without the pressure of your opinions influencing every situation. 4. Regrets. When it's best to keep them to yourself. As we get older, we naturally reflect on the past. We think about the choices we made, the roads we didn't take, and the things we wish we had done differently. Regrets are a part of life, and they're something we all carry with us, whether we like it or not. But here's something I've learned. Not every regret needs to be shared with the people we love. I remember a woman named Linda, a dedicated mother who spent most of her life caring for her family. One day, while talking to her daughter, she casually said, "I wish I hadn't given up my career to raise you." Now, Linda didn't mean any harm by it. She wasn't trying to hurt her daughter. She was just reflecting on her own life choices. But her daughter took it completely differently. What Linda thought was an honest admission turned into a subtle message. You weren't worth the sacrifice. That one comment, made in passing, created a distance between them that never quite healed. This is the tricky thing about regrets. What may feel like a simple, honest reflection to us can sometimes feel like a rejection to someone else. If you say, "I wish I had spent more time doing X," or "I wish I had lived somewhere else," the people around you might begin to feel that their love or the life you've shared with them wasn't enough. And here's the thing. The more you talk about your regrets, the more others start to see you as someone stuck in the past, rather than someone living fully in the present. When you dwell on what could have been, it can change how people treat you. They might hesitate, treat you with more caution, or create emotional distance, thinking that you're not truly happy with your life or your choices. It's not that we shouldn't acknowledge our regrets. We all have them. Maybe you wish you had traveled more. Maybe you wish you had spent more time with family. Or perhaps you have a dream you never chased. But here's the truth. Sometimes it's better to keep those regrets to ourselves, or at least not share them too freely. Instead of saying, "I wish I had done this or that," try saying, "I've learned so much from my journey." That simple shift in perspective turns regret into gratitude. It honors what you've been through, what you've learned, and the person you've become, without putting a burden on anyone else. We all have a story, and our regrets are part of that story. But as we age, we need to find peace with the things we can no longer change. And part of that peace comes from understanding that our regrets don't need to be broadcasted. Not everything needs to be said out loud. Some things are best kept in our hearts as personal lessons, rather than shared with the people we love. So think carefully about when and how you bring up your regrets. They can be a way to connect with others, yes, but they can also unintentionally hurt or make others feel inadequate. You've earned the right to reflect on your life in a way that brings you peace, not guilt. And sometimes, keeping those reflections private is the best way to honor yourself and the people you care about. Money is a sensitive topic for everyone, but especially when it comes to family. Over the years, I've learned that full financial transparency, while well-intentioned, can sometimes cause more harm than good. As we get older, there's a natural desire to prepare for the future and make sure everything is in order. But sharing too much about your financial situation can open the door to unwanted opinions, pressure, and even entitlement from family members. Let's talk about it. There's a quiet truth that many don't like to admit. When you reveal too much about your financial situation, people start to see you differently. I've seen it happen time and time again. A relative may suddenly show interest in your wealth, or someone who's never expressed concern before might begin to ask probing questions. It's not always malicious, but it can feel unsettling. Take this example. I once knew a woman, let's call her Margaret, who was incredibly generous. She had worked hard all her life and had a comfortable savings. One day, she decided to share her financial plans with her children, thinking it would give them peace of mind. Instead, it created tension. One of her sons started asking why she hadn't planned to downsize her home. Another one questioned why she hadn't already distributed some of her assets. What started as an innocent act of transparency quickly became an ongoing stream of unsolicited advice and suggestions. Margaret had spent her entire life building her financial future with careful planning, and suddenly, it felt as though she was losing control. It wasn't that her children didn't care about her. On the contrary, they were just trying to help. But the more she shared, the more they became involved in decisions that were deeply personal to her. Here's the point. You don't have to tell everyone everything. Just because you love someone doesn't mean you owe them a full account of your finances. It's your money, your decisions, and your right to maintain control over it. No one should be pressuring you to spend your savings a certain way or make choices that aren't right for you. It's okay to keep certain financial matters private, even from those you love most. When you overshare about your financial situation, you risk creating a dynamic where people are more interested in your money than in your well-being. You might hear questions like, "Are you planning to leave anything for the grandkids?" Or, "Why don't you give me a little now?" While these questions may seem innocent, they can quickly cross boundaries and lead to uncomfortable conversations. Financial privacy isn't about secrecy. It's about preserving your autonomy and peace of mind. It's about making sure that at this stage of life, you are still the one in control of your decisions and how your wealth is managed. It's your right to enjoy the fruits of your labor without the pressure of explaining or justifying how you choose to use your resources. Think about it. True respect comes from knowing that no one else has control over your money. It comes from being able to live your life the way you've chosen, without anyone else's judgment. And if someone in your family is only showing interest in your finances and not in you, it's a red flag. In the end, protecting your financial privacy is not about mistrust or being secretive. It's about ensuring that your relationships stay healthy and that you maintain your independence. You've worked hard for your financial security, and you deserve to enjoy it on your own terms. Whether you're deciding to take a vacation, buy a new car, or even save for future generations, those choices should be yours, and only yours to make.